What's going on, guys? We are in Howell, New Jersey with my friend Kevin here. What do you do, Kevin?
So I'm, I guess right now I'm a full-time online fitness coach. I have my doctorate in pharmacy, but decided to go the path of online coaching and being in love with the fitness world. So that's pretty much what I do, and I compete in bodybuilding on the side as well. Natural, we're not that big, not on the extra vitamins.
But that all being said, Kevin was introduced to me through Nikki a few years ago now. And this is actually our second collab. Our first collab was at Barbin when I was there. And today's topic is leg growth. And more specifically, Kevin's favorite 3 tips, because Kevin, being a taller individual, has to fight a little bit harder to get these quads. And one of my goals in 2021 is bigger quads, which
those are veiny, man.
I'm clearly lacking in. Look, man, it's the bully genetics. We're small leg men.
It's not the size that matters, guys.
But that all being said, 3 tips. Number 1, we were talking range of motion. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Definitely. So range of motion is something, so I've been training 12 years, so that's, of course, contributed to my leg growth. And being a taller person, you have longer muscles, so it's gonna take some time to fill up that real estate. For me, I got very fortunate that the first people to teach me how to squat, they were leading with range of motion. I played football, and when I first learned how to squat, a lot of the guys were just doing like very short squats. But my buddies, they were saying, hey, get kind of like the USAPL depth rules, like make sure they're hitting depth, getting a good stretch in the quads, getting your glutes engaged as well. So luckily that was my first like exposure into lifting, and I stuck with that through the years. And it's become an even greater priority in my training after listening to the RP guys. But for range of motion, it's gonna be taking your muscle through a long range of motion of tension. So that's gonna help you get like better pumps. You're gonna have to use less weight, but you're gonna be getting so much stimulus per rep that it actually is gonna balance out, and it's probably gonna be a net benefit. And when you use less weight per, set or per rep, it's also gonna help your joints and ligaments not get too taxed as if you were doing 600 pounds for like a quarter squat. So that's helped me a lot. It helps me get better pumps. But we were talking as well, for range of motion, you're gonna have to modify to individualize for you. So if you see some of our training, the way that I get more range of motion with my RDLs, I throw 25s on the side instead of 45s. It gives you a couple extra inches of range of motion. If you see some of our other training, especially my leg press, I elevate my lower back so I can get also a deeper range of motion with the leg press, and that gives me a killer pump. So that's some of my tips. Yeah, and also when talking about range of motion too, we have to contextualize the goals of our movement. So it's like, for example, like right now being in prep, like we were talking about my squat. Like I am hitting just the depth I need for my goal to pass with white lights. But when it comes to hypertrophy and putting that muscle through a full tension length relationship, it's really important to understand what exercise you're working with and making sure that you're not doing something like a back squat to full depth with a ton of weight that isn't going to allow you to actually take maybe your quad to mechanical failure. So that's something also that we discussed and talked about. But what is number 2? Number two is going to be overload. You hear it all the time, progressive overload, and overload is going to be tackled from many different angles. So like range of motion overload. So if you do, one more rep, the rep needs to be standardized so that you know that you're progressively overloading. So if your next, I see a lot of people make the mistake is they'll add weight, but they decrease their range of motion. You're still doing the same amount of work in total. So making sure you standardize your range of motion, that's why that's my priority number 1. And then with overload, when you add a rep, it's already standardized, so that is overload. When you add an extra set, you're also have a standardized technique. When you add more weight as well, you're getting more and more. So I want to talk about volume, and kind of in the same context as overload is you're gonna want to be training not just 1 rep maxes all the time. So we talk different training goals. Yeah. If you want to be skilled at powerlifting and do your best on the platform, you're gonna have to decrease that range of motion so you can lift a little bit more weight within the standardized rule set. So standardizing your training and overall overloading over the long period of time, that's gonna help you get that growth. Yep, and a reminder too is that when we talk about overload, to your point, like I think a lot of people just think weight, but there are so many different ways to create overload. And to your point too, it's like creating a standardized rep. Like you could even do that with partial reps and then progress those by using additional load. Tempo, you can do forms of rest pause training. There's so many different ways to overload. And I think that was really important. And that's like something that we were like kind of just talking about for the last hour, is how many different ways we can do this. And a lot of people, when they hear progressive overload, they only think weight. The third and final tip, and this is also something that I've been trying to do a lot more too, especially because with Adam, my coach from N1, we're trying to get fucking huge outside of this meet prep. Yes, sir. So after this, what's our third tip? What are we gonna be tackling? So the third tip is frequency. So also, like I talked about how I got lucky early in my training. I made some decisions that now looking back, I'm like, thank goodness I didn't go bro split and like tackled my legs, which are, I mean, it's almost like 50% of your body, and a lot of people give it 1 out of 7 days. So 1 day out of 7 or 1 out of 5 or 6 training days. So for me, I started out with push-pull legs, hitting my legs twice a week. Now I do an upper-lower split, so I'm giving my legs a lot of love, which is giving them a lot of growth. So my weekly volume is very high, and that I'm also, overloading over time with. So for me, to get that weekly volume up is giving a lot of frequency. Another thing that frequency does is there's only so many good only so many good exercises for the individual. I get great pumps on leg press, but if I wanted to do so much weekly volume in only 2 sessions, I can't do like 6 to 8 sets of leg press in like 1 session at a time. So if you do more frequency, the individual session volume can be a little bit lower, and you can prioritize that volume on high stimulus exercises for you, where you feel a good pump, get a good range of motion, and you don't have to like use that volume that you need on that one day on maybe an exercise you only kind of like and you only kind of get a good pump. Prioritize those really good, juicy exercises that work for you.
I love that. And also to that point, it's like, if we can break up some of that total volume that we're doing in 1 session, like to your point, we can break those across multiple days, push a little bit closer to technical failure, and create a lot of tension, which is really meaningful. And also, if we're using some of the bigger compound movements, like just slamming yourself with fucking high volume squats is going to put you into such a deficit to where it's like you're not even going to want to hit the legs for the rest of the week. So if your goal is hypertrophy, a different way to approach that, and the way I love how you pretty much define frequency, is by taking these very high effort sets and elongating them across multiple sessions, and then pairing them with other exercises that make sense based off your goals, and then factoring range of motion and progressive overload within that context. And I think that's really important, like dripping sweat. But
it is hot out here.
That all being said, we're gonna wrap this, dude. Thank you so much for having us out.
Yeah,
we trained at Iron Revolution. That is in Howell, New Jersey.
Howell, New Jersey. Yeah, awesome gym, fantastic lighting for the Instagram pics and the TikTok, but fantastic arsenal equipment, prime equipment. So juicy pumps.
And they just got some Ghost Strong. So shout out to Tim at Ghost for hooking up with Iron Revolution. Sick gym. Got to visit. If you want to follow Kevin, I'm gonna link all his information down below, or you can just look him up at Hejnasty, Hejnasty.
Yes, sir.
I can't spell today. But guys, we'll see you in the next one. As always, drop a like, drop subscribe.